How's it? Welcome back. Here we are yet again, ready for chapter 11. Kettle's boiled. Time to brew some tea. Don't forget to get yourself a cuppa and settle in. Get that nice high pour. Aerate the bag, you know? Right. Well, while that steeps away, let's get right into it. Chapter 11. Beautiful eggs. I was standing in the Cape Town Museum, gazing intently into a glass case that housed hundreds of beautiful birds' eggs of all colors and shapes. All those blown eggs, eggshells emptied of all their insides. I was in the process of craning my neck so that my head could be closer to the glass, to try and look under an egg, when I felt this presence behind me. I jumped, spinning to face what I had always imagined a scientist should look like. He was tall with grey hair, very bushy beard, round gold-rimmed glasses, and bushy eyebrows that swept upwards. I was a little jumpy as the train ride into Cape Town from Somerset West had not been without incident. I had been given permission from Helderberg College, the boarding school I attended, to come into Cape Town to have my eyes tested at the hospital, a routine I have had to put up with all my life, my eyes not being the best. The train stopped at every little station, and I noticed that the conductor would blow his whistle and wait for the train to start rolling before he would open the door and jump in. It was probably his only outlet for such a boring job. I also noticed that the handles of the door slid sideways in order to open the latch. Being of the noticing type, I also noticed that at the end of every station platform was a security fence to keep people from getting onto the platform from the side of the station. So I made my plan. At the last stop before I got off, I moved down to the door where the conductor was. He blew his whistle and the train started to roll. I sat with my back braced against the seat and placed my foot against the door handle so that it couldn't slide. The conductor couldn't see me as I had slid down in my seat, as far as I could, so when he tried to slide the handle back, it wouldn't move. He knew it worked as he had come out of that door, so he continued to shake and swear at the handle. He was so preoccupied with the door that he didn't realize how fast the train was going, or how fast the security fence was coming up. He hit into that fence so hard that it bounced him back a full 2 meters, making him land on his backside. Of course, for the final bit, I had to have my head out of the window to see the finale, which was quite spectacular. I also learned a whole lot of new words in Afrikaans that one doesn't ever read in the Bible. Oh man, that's brilliant. I had made I had made good my escape at the next station, but was suddenly guilty when I felt the presence behind me in the museum. I thought I had been caught. "You have questions?" The man's voice boomed through the quiet museum. "Yes, sir. I was wondering how you blow these eggs, sir." I whispered, more in fear of anything else. "Good. Good question. Come with me." Come with me." He went striding off, and I had to skip every other step to try and keep up. As we walked, he continued talking. I'm sure you have blown chicken eggs before, yes?" I don't know what accent that was. My mind drifted back to the kitchen sink, where I had carefully poked a hole in each end of a chicken egg, and then put my mouth to one end and blew as hard as I could. With a red face, I had managed to blow all the contents out of the egg, but it was easy to see that it was a blown egg because of the holes in each end. "Excuse me, sir, I didn't hear that," came back from my memory. "I was saying that when I was assigned to collect birds' eggs for this museum, I didn't like the idea of each egg having 2 holes in it Far nicer to have it complete. So you make one hole in the side and not in the end. We were in his laboratory now. Bottles, tubes, light smell. Take this common chicken egg. Make a hole in the side. I took the egg and with a pin started to twirl the pin like a drill. I made a small hole on the side where my guide had shown me. Now make it bigger. I chipped around the small hole, making the hole a bit bigger, but chipping small enough pieces so as to not break off a big piece. Yes, yes, I can see you've done this before. Now take this plastic syringe and squirt air into the hole. You know what happens when you squirt air into water? It rises to the top. Same with any liquid. The air will rise to the top. So hold the egg with the hole down, and the air rising will force out the contents. I carefully held the egg hole down and put the needle of the syringe into the hole. I slowly pushed in the plunger, and as I did, the egg white started to come out right away. The yellow yolk came next, some whiter, and then there was a bubbling sound. Now the egg is empty. If you leave anything inside, the color will fade from the shell, so we have to wash it. Squirt in some water with the syringe till it is full, then empty it in the same way you did the first time. I did just as he said, filling the egg with water, then holding the hole down again and filling it with air, the water running all over my hand and into the sink. To drain the egg completely, we put it on a piece of tissue or blotting paper and the moisture is drawn out of the egg. You see what happens when I place it on the tissue. You put the egg whole down on a piece of tissue, and immediately a circle of wet tissue formed. Now you have an egg that will not discolor because of not being cleaned properly, and you will have something that looks like a whole egg. By letting the egg rest on the side with the hole, no one will ever know that we tampered with it. A frown spread across his forehead as the scientist looked down at me. You collect eggs? He asked. Yes, sir. I have a small collection at my home in Uganda. I have a problem you might solve for me. What do you do with eggs that have fully formed chicks inside? His eyes were boring into me through his gold-rimmed glasses. Well, sir, I make the hole slightly larger than normal and place the egg near a nest of driver ants. They will eat all the flesh, leaving a complete skeleton inside. I could speak with authority, as I had already practiced with chicken eggs that were ready to hatch, and then broken them open after the ants had eaten the contents. I'm just gonna get my tea. I nearly forgot about my tea. Dash of milk. Got my sugar. The humidity in this place just makes the sugar cake together. I can't stand humidity. Cheers. Right, got some pictures here. I'm not sure if they'll show up very well on the camera. But let's give it a shot. So, there's the author and his sister in 1953. And I believe that's the author's family and Buster, obviously in Uganda. And then Later he goes on to talk about the Congo Civil War and some of the mercenaries. So this gentleman here is Mr. Stein and soldiers, some of the mercenaries that were involved in the Congo War. Then these are the author's boys, Matt and Moz. And this over here is the Kivu Lake steamer. He later talks about the mercenaries. They blew up several banks in Stanleyville. That there up top is one of the banks they weren't able to blow. But when they recaptured Stanleyville from the rebels, they blew the banks and took a lot of gold. And they apparently hid a bunch of gold in the Kivu. It's just, oops, a beautiful old elephant bull and one of Bill's kids, Mods, taking up his favorite pastime, singing. Some photos, some more photos of the author and his kids. Some fishing, more fishing up here. This is the author and his cook, his cook boy servant named Bones, who travels everywhere with him. You'll hear more about Bones later, definitely. Yeah. Cute photo of some baboons. Right. Okay, where was I? Ah, yeah, the egg museum, and how to get rid of how to empty an egg that already has a fully formed chick. I'll just reread that paragraph. I make the hole slightly larger than normal and place the egg near a nest of driver ants. They will eat all the flesh, leaving a complete skeleton inside. I could speak with authority, as I had already practiced with chicken eggs that were ready to hatch, and then broken them open after the ants had eaten the contents. Good, very good. And how do you get the eggs down from the tree after you've taken them from the nest? In my mouth, sir. He smiled, gently pulled a handful of whiskers. Then he started to nod. Then he started to laugh till it seemed every whisker on his face quivered. People often mistakenly think that collecting eggs is rather like going to an Eskimo hut for an ice cream. I have found that with each species, you have to know the bird, what it eats, where it builds its nest, when it lays its eggs, and by the time you've located the nest with eggs in it, you have formed quite a relationship with the bird. Egg collecting can also become such a passion that everything else pales, as my studies did at Helderberg. In the evenings, I would sit with my collection, take an egg out and hold it in the palm of my hand. I would relive the story of how I had got the egg, and with every egg there was a story to tell. The pied crow egg reminds me of the man who hid in the papyrus swamp and tried to run me through with a spear when I was on the way home. Heron's eggs were gathered on fishing trips to the Nile. A pendulum tit's egg that I had to wait a whole day for in the blazing heat of Botswana, or Bechuanaland as it was then called. But my marabou stork egg always brought a smile to my face. There is a short river or channel between Lake George and Lake Edward in Uganda. There were more hippos in that one area than any other place in the world. Approximately 5,000 hippos live there, and the banks of the Kazinga Channel are famous for its birds and game. Even though we knew it was against the national park's law, Dad and I, like two naughty schoolboys, put our inflatable kayak together and paddled all the way down the channel amongst all those hippos. Of course we were caught, and of course we pled our innocence, and of course it goes without saying that when Dr. Taylor was mentioned, we were forgiven. As Dad has often said, to ask forgiveness is easier than asking for permission, and I've lived my life by that mantra. On our way back home, we passed a fish factory, and the marabou storks always hung around eating all the fish offal. On this particular day they had eaten so much that all the storks had neck bags hanging down at least 2 feet. When they got full they would rest on their knees and hang their woolly heads as though they had gone to sleep. Knowing that they make nests only in the highest of acacia trees, I knew my only chance lay in trying to frighten one so badly that they laid an egg. Having done this with chickens, I knew it was possible. I asked Dad to wait in the car and crept along the side of the building just out of sight of the marabous. At the last second, I flung myself around the corner, screaming and flapping wildly. Without exception, they all vomited up great globs of fish offal and took off in a lumbering fashion. I saw a white spot among the vomit and raced over. My happiness was complete. There, nestled in the grass, was a fresh egg, perfect in its whiteness, invaluable to my collection. I fairly danced all the way back to Dad, and he chuckled about it all the way back to Ankoli. I probably would have done better in school if they offered classes in bird collecting or animals and their behavior, hunting or fishing. When we have forgotten all the classes we took in school, I still have my eggs. Yeah, I'm really keen to try my hand at a bit of egg collecting, see what I can get. And yeah, I am currently studying animal behavior and zoology, so it's a pity Bill Taylor didn't have that option when he was at school. Right, well, hope you enjoyed. Have a good night, sleep well, and see you tomorrow. Cheers.